What's up, sneaky people? It's your boy FB Kicks and Gear, and I am back with another legit checking guide for the Jordan 4 SB Pine Greens. And this is the fourth video that I've done, or that I am doing, I should say, and I've got to say that this is probably another batch. Not probably, I know it's another batch because there are changes and differences in this than other batches that I've seen. So I'm going to do the normal breakdown that I do. We will be talking about the differences, the things to look out for when you are doing your legit checking and comparing one shoe to another to make sure you know you are getting what you paid for. And just like always, you will be able to find pictures, detailed pictures of the rep on the Instagram account that's about to pop up. I will have all the angles there and everything because references are important. Being able to go back and study, go hone in on things, that's important too. So on that Instagram account, you will find all the pictures you need of this shoe to make better decisions. So as I said, here is another video, another legit checking guide for the Jordan 4 Pine Greens. And I do not get tired of looking at the shoe. I do not get tired of reviewing the shoe and doing legit check guides because every shoe that I get is different and it pops up something different for me to hone in on and focus on. So let's start getting into it. And the first thing that we do, obviously, with every video is we look at the boxes. And just like every other video we've done so far, the rep box here that's a little bit beat up is smaller than the authentic box. That is something that we've come to realize. Rep boxes are never the right size. And the only real thing to point out here when it comes to the tags is, just like always, it's the weight of the text. The text on the rep pair is a little bit more bold than the weight of the text on the authentic pair. And usually they kind of get it pretty uniform, but the easiest way to look at it for these is to look at the jordan.com here. If you look at the jordan.com here and then on the authentic pair, you can see that the jordan.com is a lot more bold than the jordan.com here, and everything else is slightly more bold as well. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the boxes. We have done this time and time again. They're pretty much using the same boxes across the rep factory, so there's not really much to look into on that. So let's start talking about the shoes. So here we have the shoes, and just like I do in all my other videos, I like to start with looking at the shape. And most importantly, when it comes to the shape, you want to look at a couple of things, but the biggest things are the shape of the toe box. Notice how this toe box isn't clunky, it's not thick, it's not huge. This is a new shape that Jordan Brand and Nike have been using. This being the second one, the Amamanier Jordan 4s also have that slimmer toe box. It's supposed to look more like the original Jordan 4, and that's why they changed the toe box. The other things that you want to look at is the size of the netting on both sides, the windows. You also want to look here at the size of the netting towards the top of the toe, because unlike most Jordan 4s, I usually like to only count about 4 or 5 of these little squares up before I see the laces. But for these ones in particular, they have pushed it up, and these look more like reps I've seen. So let's take a look at those things shape-wise on the rep and see how they compare. So the first thing that we're going to look at here is we're going to look at the toe box. And I think you can see automatically that the toe box on the rep is definitely a little bit thicker, and it more so resembles a traditional Jordan 4 like the ones that we've been getting for the past 10 years. It's a little bit thicker. It doesn't have that smooth transition. It doesn't have that slim toe box that's reminiscent of the original pair. But from there, you can look at the netting on the side, and I will say that although it's slightly bigger, it's definitely smaller than other reps of these that I've seen, so that's pretty good. The one thing I will say though is that while the netting hole here is bigger, the netting itself, it feels slimmer and just not as strong as the authentic pair. The authentic pair is a little bit thicker in the actual lining of it itself, but this feels almost kind of flimsy. And then from there, we look at the toe box area here, and it's hilarious because for years I have done rep reviews where I say 4s need to have their window looking like this over by the tongue, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and they finally get it right on this when they shouldn't have gotten it right. It should look more like this, and you can see that is a pretty stark difference. And I want to say this is more so what I'm used to seeing in Rep 4s, this huge netting thing up here on the top of the tongue. This is what I'm usually used to seeing on regular Jordan 4s, but for this, Nike changed a lot of stuff up for skateboarding purposes. On any other shoe, this would have been perfect, but not now. This is not when they should have gotten it right. So pay attention to that. The next thing that I want to talk about is the rubber accents of the shoe. And by the rubber accents, I mean these wings and this back tab here. These have a distinct feel. They don't feel like plastic. They don't feel like soft plastic like other reps have been trying to mimic this, but are trying to use the same materials that they've been using before. This feels like rubber down to the actual letters. They are flexible. They have this springiness to them. This is how they should feel. When you look at the rep here on the right, feels like rubber, but it feels more like plastic than it does rubber. That's the only real way I can describe it. And you can see that the spacing is off compared to the authentic pair right here. You can see that the gaps in between the letters, even in the SB, aren't as wide as they are on the reps. And I feel like that's something that's pretty easy to pick up on, but they're definitely doing something different. This probably feels more like the rubber on here than any other rep that I've seen to this point, but it's still not exactly the same. It does have some grip to it. It doesn't feel as hard as regular Jordan 4s, but it doesn't feel like the authentic pair, which is something that we have come to expect when it comes to the rep version of these. And when you go to the wings, definitely rubber, but just like the case here, it's not as flexible of a rubber as the authentic pair. They're definitely messing with the formula a little bit, and I can tell they're trying to get closer to this, but it doesn't seem like the rep factors have replicated it just yet. From there, let's look at colors. First, we'll start with the suede here, and we'll work our way around to the shoe. One thing I will say is that the suede on the authentic pair is a short-haired, coarse feeling suede. This does not feel like a soft, long-haired suede that you're usually used to seeing on different Jordans. It's coarse, while the reps are definitely more textured. They're a little bit darker in color, and they're definitely a lot softer than what the authentic pair looks like. And then from there, we can take a look at the eye stays or the lace holder wings here, and you can see that there is a difference in color between the authentic one and the rep one. It's more of a dark forest green than a vibrant, almost lucky green type of color, and you can see that pretty apparently. And then when you go up to the other ones, it's kind of the same story, although the actual wings kind of look similar in color. The authentic pair might just be a deeper kind of cream / off-white than the rep pair. The rep pair almost has a tint of green to it itself. So when you look at the rubber, if you remember the last video I did, you can see that the grooves in the rep pair were not exactly the same, but they are exactly the same here. And then when you look at the colors, you can see that the rubbers are actually very, very close in color. Usually what I'm seeing in the reps is that the white rubber is actually more of a grayish kind of rubber, while the white on the authentic pair is more of a brighter, more vibrant white. These look very, very, very close, almost identical. I'm not seeing a difference in color outside of the shadows, which is fantastic, which is new. I haven't seen a rep do that yet. And the greens are slightly different. I would say this is a more deeper, more vibrant green than the rep, but they are very, very close. And then when you flip it over, you can actually see a pretty decent difference in the color of the gum. It's darker on the authentic pair, and it's a little bit more yellow on the rep. Same thing goes on the toe. And that is something that, for whatever reason, reps struggle with, and doesn't matter what factories they are, If one rep is struggling with it, most reps are going to struggle with it. It's just going to be to different degrees. Some batches will do things better than other batches, but that's just the name of the game. But from there, we can look at the tongue tags here, and this is probably where another substantial difference is. One of the things that the Authentic pair does is it has the silky, shiny finish to it, and you can see how it kind of shines in the light, and it's soft to the touch. The Rep pair is more stiff. It's got this weird red backing to it, which I'm assuming has to do with the undertone here, and the Flight is darker, a little bit bolder than on the Authentic pair, which is more of a vibrant green. And then speaking of greens, let's go to the inside of the tongue. And one of the things that I tell people to look out for is that Rep pairs, for whatever reason, have these prominent horizontal lines that probably has something to do with how the material is made. And you can see it pretty prominently on the Rep pair, but when you look at the Authentic pair, it's not as prominent. It looks a lot more fuzzy and not as defined. And while we're looking at that, you can see the different colors and greens. It's a lot more vibrant on the Authentic pair. It's a lot duller on the Rep. And when you transition onto the whites, you can see that those lines are present in the white stock liner as well, and they are not present or are very, very faint on the Authentic pair. Also, the whites are different. It's a lot more bright, vibrant of a white on the Rep pair than it is on the Authentic pair. I'm not going to pull it out, but on the Nike Air or Nike SB Air on the insoles, the Air text is just slightly bolder on the Rep than it is on the Authentic pair, and that is across the board. Reps do not use real Dreamcell insoles, so that's something you should keep in mind. Pull out any other Jordan that you have with a Dreamcell insole, compare it to your 4, and you will know right off the bat whether it's a real Dreamcell or not. But since we've done all the basics here, now we're going to do the Blacklight test, and we'll see some of the things that are different. One of the things that's worth mentioning is that not much reacts on the Jordan 4 SB. The only thing that really brightens up when you put a Blacklight on it is the wings and the underneath the undermesh of the netting. See how the undermesh lights up and reacts, and then so does the wings. The stitch across the front of the shoe reacts as well right here, and the gum midsole almost looks like it's glowing when you shine a Blacklight on it. So other than that, nothing else really reacts that's worth noting on the Authentic pair outside of the glue that you can see. When you pick up the Rep pair, first thing you're probably going to see, just like every other one that I've seen, is a bunch of invisible ink guidelines and everything that they use so that they can line up the parts. And no different here. Definitely not as much as I've seen on other pairs, but you can definitely see it. You can see where they add their little tick marks. Definitely not as bad as the pairs that I've seen. And when you put the Blacklight on the wing, it does not react at all, although the undermesh does react and the front stitch does. When you put the Blacklight on the gum part, it does not react. It doesn't look like it's glowing like the Authentic pair is. See how it looks like it's almost glowing in the dark, and it's not reacting at all on the Rep. So other than that, I don't see anything else really. All you really see is glue and the guide marks that they use, but this pair definitely doesn't have as much guide marks as the other pairs that I've seen. Outside of that, I don't think there really is much to go into. A lot of the things that make this shoe pretty easy to legit check is the fact that Nike changed a lot when they created this shoe to accommodate skateboarding, but also be more true to the original Jordan 4. And those changes that were made, that's what reps struggle with, and that's what the rep factories struggle with. So granted, people will wear these and most people won't even be able to tell the difference on foot. That's your business. I'm not here to criticize people for the shoes that they wear. I am here to make legit check guides, and that's what I'm going to do. So with all that said, I will place the Instagram account where you can see way more photos, way more detailed photos of these on Instagram, so you can do your research and really study up on what your Jordan 4 SB Pine Greens are supposed to look like, and yeah, keep yourself from getting scammed or fooled or whatever. So with all that said, guys, I will see you in the next one. Peace.